Today I'm here to share one of the worst mindsets you can sustain as a young man. This mindset kept me grounded at one point, and I want you to listen very carefully because one message, one communication, something can come from this teaching that vehicles you from one season to the next. That's how information comes. Information can be seen in the realm of the spirit as light. Extrapolated to the context of the Bible, it says, "And the light shineth in darkness, the darkness comprehended it not." So your ignorance is darkness. Your ignorance is darkness. The only way you cure ignorance is not by literally turning on the light bulb, but by sustaining information that drives that ignorance as a consequence. Life is cause and effect. You do not solve your money problems by trying to get money. You solve your money problems by sustaining the knowledge that gets you money. Chances are excellent if you end the direction of trying to get money. You will end up working menial jobs, saving up, doing measly, clipping coupons. Life is filled with hidden contradictions. The road to heaven seems like hell. The road to hell seems like heaven. Isn't it funny? The people who need money the most doesn't seem to have enough, while the people who are liberal have enough. Because like attracts like. Like attracts like. Once you sustain a scarcity mindset that you have a finite sum, and once you spend, it's akin to being depleted. You're so cheap with your dollars. It translates into your mindset and you begin to broadcast that pungent energy into the universe, attracting even more scarcity to your life. When the Bible encourages, or when the Bible makes statements like the liberal soul shall be made fat. So once you're liberal, you're attracting the energy of finances. Now, this is not a manifestation video. This is not a video on how to get finances through the law of attraction. In fact, your desires are just a middleman between you and the mental attitude, or the mental attitude. Scratch the mental attitude and end the opposite direction. Think about it this way. There is a mental attitude sustained when you get your first luxury car. Sustaining that mental attitude ahead of the activity increases the likelihood. Look at it this way. If you sustain a scarcity mindset, your lot has been guaranteed. Conversely, you sustain a liberal mindset, it might happen, it might not. So obviously, it's guaranteed to happen, but for simplicity and for the reason for the reason of conformity to the duality concept, let's say it's not guaranteed to happen and there's a 50-50 chance it might or might not. Shouldn't you gamble? Shouldn't you take your chances? Exactly. But the mindset I want to talk about in tonight's teaching is placing your value on an external event. This is a very unfortunate reality, and I'm going to be as vulnerable as possible in tonight's discourse. Previously, I would say to myself, I would act a certain way once my business has gotten to X level. I will dress a certain way once I've achieved a certain amount. I will ask a certain quality of women out once I've done X thing. Unfortunately, when you get to that end product, which is most likely by the way, it becomes very difficult to embody the mental attitude. Let me give you an example. You claim that once you have hundreds of thousands of dollars, you finally walk up to that level. In a hypothetical scenario, you have that amount. Do you truly see yourself walking up to that level? Exactly. Do you truly see yourself being confident and addressing business partners? Exactly. But you said that once you get to a certain amount, you will be confident, you will do XYZ, you will be happy. Hypothetically, you have this money and yet you're still yourself, which is what I used to foolishly assume. I would be able to speak a certain way, and at the infancy of my career, I would do, I would do, what's the word? I would refrain from hanging out with celebrities, not just for the reason that they have very little intellectual value to offer, and I refuse to waste time with men whom I deem less. But the point I want to highlight is I said to myself, my value is predicated on my garage. Once I get this car, although I have the money, but at the infancy of my career, as any intelligent individual would, focused more on investing. I fixated more on developing my my various portfolio across the board. Unfortunately, waiting for the result to materialize in order to purchase a certain kind of car or place my confidence on some externalities when I wear or when I dress a certain kind of way, then I'll feel confident. That is a terrible place to be because belief engenders action. Once you believe, you act in accordance to that belief. At the beginning of this video, I said it's very unlikely to sustain that kind of mindset and achieve the end product. Let me give you a logical breakdown. Sometimes it's your confidence, the concept of yourself that engenders the action leading to that result. Say for instance, you believe that the business is at that level. It's only a matter of time. You have the confidence to interact with fellow aristocrats, fellow billionaires in the making, and with the level of confidence and interaction, they might slip in a deal less to them, a lot to you. Billionaires have the way they think. The chances of you meeting a billionaire giving you $100 or $10, it's very unlikely. Not because they're stingy. This has nothing to do with wealth or riches. No, no, no. That's how their mind works. What they see as trivial might be a lot to you. Put yourself in the same situation. $10 might seem as trivial to you. It's a lot to someone else. Putting yourself in the mental frame not only conveys to the universe that there's a vacuum that needs to be filled, it attracts the opportunity, the kind of people who would be needed to facilitate the activity gravitate at a very high pace. The worst thing you can do not make the same mistake as me. As I initially stated, and I will reiterate that belief attracts your reality. Whatever you believe becomes your reality. If you truly believe you're worthy for success and something needs to happen, you need to dress a certain way, you need to get some kind of result, a certain car needs to be parked at your garage before you feel confident to pitch a business idea. You would never ever go far placing your confidence on externalities. What happens when the car spoils? What happens on your way to the business meeting? You run into a collision in an attempt not to risk $1 billion contract. You have to take a ride. Showing up in a Toyota, does it deplete your confidence? You feel lesser of a human because you showed up in a substandard car. And even when you arrive, you are trying as much as possible to manage the situation. Oh, my car just got into a collision. That's why I have to book the ride. Who cares? Value doesn't answer to externalities. Are there unique scenarios where you have to present yourself a certain way? In fact, people judge a book by its cover, but tying your reputation to externalities isn't a good place to be. You see some kinds of people, little problem as touching their business and they're scampering about, not as a consequence to fix the problem necessarily, but because their reputation is so hinged to showing up in an SUV, is so hinged on having a company, is so hinged on being called CEO. There are people today, if you do not add the chieftaincy title behind their name, that begins the trouble. I recall one time I mistakenly called a professor doctor. Immediately you could see the change in his demeanor, as though if he could strike me down there, that's exactly what he would have done. This is a professor, not a doctor. Correct yourself. Ah, professor, my apologies. The smile returns. It is a terrible way to live, placing your confidence on externalities. For very long, I would refrain from purchasing luxury vehicles. I had to get to the point to verify and check and re-verify. My confidence, my achievement is not tied to externalities. My achievement is tied to every single thing we built on the back of hard work, every single sacrifice we've made, every single thing we've done to get ahead. There are times where I have to consecrate myself. There are times where we have to buy books. There are times where you have to ignore the parties, ignore the women, ignore the conventionalism. That's why when people see me as a young man who is overachieved, they know something is wrong because according to the path of the system, you're supposed to go to school, spend 4 years in college, and during that interval, party your life out. Then, once you're out, off to a job. When you're 30, 40, realize that you've been scammed, begin to pursue success. Seeing someone who diverges out of that script is an anomaly. If you see me at 3 a.m. in a gas station with my Mercedes GLE coupe pumping gas, do you think, ah, this guy went to college and he studied really hard? Or do you think fraudster? Exactly. So you know it intuitively that people who get ahead diverge from the original script. Confidence placed on externality is one of the worst things you can ever do to yourself as well as anybody within your radius, anyone at all. So for the sake of time, we end it here. The summary is not to place your confidence on externalities. Your confidence should be placed on yourself, what you can provide, what you can bring to the table. I recommend giving value, but it's best to be the value yourself. It's best when your face is the value, when the company is tied to you as an individual, more so your systems. Yes, there are systems in place, but I guarantee if Elon leaves Tesla, the stocks are plummeting. As always, my friends, pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.